Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Autistic Voice Project. As always, I'm Matt Lowry from Louisville,
And I'm Erin Findley from Napa, California.
and today is a rough one because a lot of stuff has happened recently, and I think that we have to have a moment to talk about. As we are recording this, we are recording this on Monday the 26th. 26th? Yes.
Yes, the 26th
Monday,
at
Monday the
about
20th.
5:30 Eastern.
Yeah, and this should go up in the future on Friday. And if you are in the future listening to this, you'll know when we recorded it. But this happened right after yet another murder. So today, I think that we really have to stop and take a minute to talk about serious stuff with ice. We just had a massive snowstorm that wiped covered like half the U.S., so we can cover that too because it's thematically on point. But we really have to talk about community. We have to talk about safety. We have to talk about our responsibility to history and how we are proceeding through these unprecedented circumstances that are very precedented and have been happening to people for years to the point of where we can no longer ignore it and sleep at night. So, where shall we start, Erin?
Well, actually, I want to make a comment about something you just said because I think it's unprecedented for a lot of us who are white, and I don't know how to
Ah,
say this delicately, so
hmm.
I'm just not gonna.
it,
Um,
it's as though
those of
we're
us,
having our own Tulsa moment.
yeah, those of us who are white are not used to being under threat. And that
Yeah,
doesn't mean that we haven't experienced threat as autistic people, but it's different to be under threat in general versus under threat as an autistic person. And we're, I think, for the first time for many of us, experiencing both.
yeah,
And I want to take a moment to acknowledge the reality that this is what our Black brothers and sisters have been experiencing for centuries.
yeah.
That is the reality. And if you didn't know that before now, please take a moment to listen to the voices of Black people who are talking about what's happening right now, because even now in the news, the names of the people who are being bandied about, this person got executed, that person got executed, and I'm saying executed because I think that's really what we're
Because
looking at. I
we
don't
are
think it's
pedantic.
just murder.
Yeah, we are a
I think
pedantic
it's,
people that use precise verbiage.
yeah, I think it's state sanctioned execution, um and that isn't just happening to white people, even though white people are the people who have been in the headlines lately.
Yeah,
So I
like
really,
7 people
really
last year, right?
say again.
7 people last year, right? 7 people of color were murdered last year. Were executed
I
by
mean,
federal
yeah,
agents last
I'm
year.
sure it's more than that.
Yeah, well, high profile,
And
but yes.
yeah, but yeah, like, so so this is a place where we as white people, for those of us who are white people and for those of us who are not white people listening to this, you know, you do the work that you need to do for your own self, um to find out what you need to find out if this is news to you. But please recognize, for those of us who are white, that this is the daily experience that has happened for our Black brothers and sisters over the last 4 centuries, 5 centuries, and for the indigenous population ever since
Oh
people
man,
landed
yeah,
in the North America,
yeah,
in Central America. Like, take some time to learn about the history from their perspective. I guarantee you, you will not be the same afterwards. And this isn't me trying to be sanctimonious. Um, this is just me taking the opportunity to say, this is real, and we haven't been listening. And we haven't, and I say we because my brain has known this, my nervous system knows it differently now. Um, and and so I say that with great humility. Like I'm not perfect here either, right? Um, and it's made me want to lean in more. And I'll share some resources that I've been using for that. But uh, but I also know that so many of us are exquisitely sensitive and exquisitely attuned to justice related issues, and um, and a lot of us are feeling shaken right now. I just spent 2 days dealing with a vestibular migraine that was brought on by witnessing, even though it was as secondhand as I could make it, by witnessing the reality of what was happening in Minnesota over the weekend. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, we live in a time when prior to this we might have heard of executions. We might have seen black and white photographs that people
right,
took in the meantime, but now we see it in real time, instantaneously from 20 different angles. Thanks to the people
right.
who are documenting such things, because the people in power do not want this documentation, because boy, at some point there will be Nuremberg trials, hopefully. But
Hopefully.
yeah, but yeah, that it can be unnerving to
Hmm.
pay witness to this, to see somebody, an innocent person, be removed from the planet forcefully by ignorant, hateful people.
Right. And so I want to remind folks that um, those of us who are monotropic, we lock in,
Yeah,
and we have a tendency to um, go back and really like fixate, and I want to encourage everybody, myself included, Matt, you included, everybody, to do the best you can to strike a balance between paying attention and tuning into your body needs. Okay. You don't have to ignore what's happening. That's not safe. That's not healthy. But you also are not likely to be served by staying in the rabbit hole, right? So, doing some things to make sure you're staying connected to your body while you're experiencing the care, while you're experiencing the distress. That's really important. Use your cues in your body to pay attention to what you need to do to take care of your body. Take breaks. Okay. If you need to sleep, sleep. If you need to dissociate, dissociate. If you need to distract, distract. Don't forget, come back when you are recharged. Okay. But you don't have to be hyper focused 24/7. And in fact, it's not likely to serve you if you do that.
and here's a
Uh,
question for you, Erin, and our dear
yeah.
listener, because I'm sure it's come up. How many times, notice I'm not saying whether, I'm saying how many times, have you run through scenarios and hypothetical situations where you are encountering ice and either need to confront, escape, or worry about death?
You mean I have to count? Um,
Yeah, because
I mean, it
that,
runs through my dreams.
yeah,
It it's certainly in my clinical work.
yeah,
It's, you know, I mean, honestly, this past couple of days, I don't know that I've even had a whole lot in the way of clear and distinct thoughts, but that's because I haven't been having a whole lot in the way of clear and distinct thoughts.
yeah.
Um, and so,
It's been a
but
hell of a
but
weekend.
it's been a hell of a weekend. It's been a hell of a weekend. Um, so if this is something that's going through your mind, yeah, you know what? There's a WhatsApp chat that I'm a part of, not of autistic people, but of people who are similarly justice oriented. And we talked about this weekend what should go in a go bag, not
Yeah,
just any old go bag like I'm going to do something, out in the quote unquote normal world, whatever that is, but an actual, like, the world is falling apart around me go bag.
Yeah.
That, I'm not a prepper by nature, but this might be a time to be a bit prepped, right?
Especially for
Um,
marginalized and more vulnerable people,
yeah.
because
And the more
uh,
marginalized you are and the more vulnerable you are, you know, it's important to be realistic.
yeah. Yeah,
Um,
back when
yeah.
RFK started all this nonsense, I, you know, having flashbacks of as as an autistic person, you are assigned one of like 5 special interests at birth: horses, trains, World War II, etc. I was very hyper fixated on World War II, Indiana Jones, Star Wars, fighting Nazis, all
Mm,
that, because this is how that worked. And
mhm,
for a period, I could tell you every single one of the triangles put upon people, why they were there, why, political prisoners and blood, German for stupid, were the autistic triangles, the black triangles. And
mhm.
when I was working with the Kentucky Autism Council, once again, the acronym CACA, Kentucky Advisory Council on Autism, named by a neurotypical, not an autistic person, the last straw.
That just blows my mind that they let that
Yeah, that they
be
didn't
a
see
thing.
caca. They thought caca was a perfectly, yeah. Again, as you listen to the Autistic Voice Validating Our Identity, Culture, and Experience podcast, because I love a good
Uh-huh.
acronym. But yeah, so anyway, I was we autistic people on the council were saying, yes, Illinois has already said there will be no autism registry list. We need to advise the governor of Kentucky that we won't be doing that. And the head, there's two. There were two co-chairs, one autistic person that I hope to introduce you to shortly, one neurotypical person that shall not be named. And there was a great deal of consternation among the neurotypicals of that will never happen. Why do we need to bring that up? We don't need to worry about that. And they eventually blocked sending a letter. So we decided to leave the council and send the letter anyway to advise the governor to not do that. But my last few minutes on the council was saying, I have a non-speaking son. My son speaks through echolalia. He's a Gestalt language processor. Whereas I, a middle-aged cishet white man, will likely be able to evade detection
Mhm.
because I is good at masking. My son will not be. My son will grow up to be 6'1", a brick house, and only be able to speak in Peppa Pig quotes. So he will there will be people who do not understand him. There will be people who fear him. And ICE is comprised, apparently, of lots and lots of fearful men. Men who
Mhm.
fear women speaking out. Men who fear black people and brown people. Men who fear white men who fear being told no. And I very, very, very much worry about my son's future. I very, very much worry about all of my black and brown and trans and gay friends,
Mhm.
because I don't have a single white cishet male friend at all. Well, except for maybe Ben. Hi, Ben. But uh, you're the one, dude. In it, bro. But yeah, it's very. I personally worry that as a cishet white male, I won't be targeted, but I
Mhm.
am well aware I have poor impulse control when people are being treated poorly. And I can't stand by and watch I very much felt what Pretty was uh Alex Pretty, Pretty, is that his
Alex
name?
Pretty.
Alex Pretty. I very much feel that because he got in between ICE trying to conquer women, to control women. ICE did not like that, and they
Yeah.
executed him for that. And I very much, again, given my history, that this is why I have very few friends. This is why I'm not on the autism council anymore. This is why, you know, uh, the people, the coworkers I've had, the bosses. I've had a few bosses. Erin, the other Erin, I worked with a different Erin who was a good boss. But generally speaking, bosses did not like me saying, that's a bad plan. It's going to end poorly. I can give you 8 reasons why it'll end poorly, and then it end poorly. And I was like, see, I told you it'd end poorly because I can't help myself.
Right.
I have that PDA dog in me, and I recognize that if it ever came up, that's how I go out, and I recognize that's how it would end for me, and I've run through that scenario throughout my life many times, but especially over the past weekend, especially while my son was snowed in here because he couldn't go back to his grandparents' house because we had, and I am not exaggerating, 25 inches of snow, according to the weather report. So, yeah, it's, I, 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 I worry. And this is the thing, because I have a lot of privilege knowing that if I kept my mouth shut, my head down, and I kept on going, I would probably be fine. If I didn't care about the people around me, I would be fine. But this is the I worry about the people who, and this is again my I guess whatever the opposite of white man's burden is. I worry about people because again there's a lot of people who cannot hide from ICE. There's a lot of people who will be targeted for skin color. They're much more popular than I am. I have I changed my Facebook page to personal instead of public, so I don't have any followers. And Bob in Toledo, you are our loyal listener to the Autistic Voice Project, and I'm guessing you're not an ICE supporter, so hey, well done. But
Yeah.
I don't have the reach that a lot of people do, that a lot of journalists do. I don't expect to be targeted, but there are a lot of Black and brown people who have been targeted, who have been dragged away in the middle of the night, how they were using children to bait them out. And they've been dragged off, never to be seen again. We don't know if they're alive. We don't know if they're dead. We don't know if they're being tortured. Because again, there are, by definition, these are concentration camps.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that
Yeah.
this is the problem, because in order for this system to survive, it requires a lack of empathy. The people who are in charge tell us explicitly that empathy is bad, because that's the way the capitalism works. Capitalism
Mm-hmm.
thrives on exploitation and a lack of empathy. And in order for them to be the good guys, they have to demonize empathy. And again, while I want to, make it known that uncountable numbers of Black and brown people have suffered at the hands of ICE, but Alex Preedy is a very poignant moment, because everything that he was doing, protecting somebody, an ICU nurse for the VA, every, in theory, thing that happened here is something that they say that they're going after the worst of the worst. They say they're going after criminals. They say they're going after rapists. But again, I don't think that he could have done anything more on the surface to qualify for sainthood.
Yeah.
And they decided to call him a domestic terrorist because,
Right.
again, controlling the narrative on this. And if anybody watches the video with the overlay of the narrative that they created, you can tell that the narrative is in no way related to reality. And this is an experience that I think that we as autistic people have come to expect, because as bottom-up processors, we process a lot of points of data, and then people will say, oh, don't worry about that. Oh, you're fine. Oh, that's not too loud. Oh, that's not too bright. Oh, just eat it. Or, all these other things that we have to deal with. We're told our entire lives that our opinion does not matter, that our perspective does not matter, and that we are somehow wrong for having any of these thoughts, feelings, beliefs, observations, etc. So this big brother shit where, ignore what you see, ignore what you hear. This is the culmination of all of this, and
Hmm.
it's extra traumatizing to see it in, because again, as bottom up processors, we're also bottom up socializers.
Hmm.
We tend, and again I use the word tend because some people get very testy when I say we do this without the explicit word tend. We tend to be bottom up socializers. We tend to be egalitarian in our interactions, especially as
Exactly.
kids, because we say, ah, yes, the teacher is my best friend. Ah, yes, the librarian is my best friend. Ah, yes, the janitor is my best friend. And then kids
Yeah.
will go up to the principal and say, it is too hot in here. You need to change the temperature. And I personally love it because I get a kick out of every time, but it turns out neurotypicals hate that. And this
Hmm.
is the epitome of ICE. Because if
Hmm.
you tell an ICE agent, hey, that's illegal, they say, no, I am the law. I want to do this, because it's the ultimate example of white male impotence. That all these guys sign up for a 47-day training course to have impunity to kill and carry out orders from the top without
Yeah.
thinking. And this is the ultimate example of that top-down processing. What happens when the top is corrupt? What happens when the top is wrong? What happens when the top is deceitful and
Hmm.
doing things purely for personal benefit, purely to enrich material wealth instead of doing what is best for the people?
Yeah, and we're seeing that play out in real time
Yeah.
in
It's a very,
more blatant ways. Like it's been playing out for a long time, but
yeah.
it's more blatant now.
Yeah, yeah, and that's this is the thing. This is the thing, because, like, okay, so again, going back to the foundation of this country, built on our economic prosperity, depends on me enslaving as many people as possible and forcing them to work for me. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
right.
bad start, and then you
It
have a
is a
civil
terrible
war.
start, in fact.
Yeah, yeah, you
And
have a
even
civil.
before that, I'm going
Yeah,
to show up in a land that I've never been and pretend it's unoccupied because I don't understand the people who live here
yeah.
already.
And the only
What?
reason that you know that the only reason that happened is because there was an apocalypse, right? that the indigenous people suffered from this catastrophic plague that wiped out like 90% of the population, because
Right,
the cities at the time were like as big as Manhattan today. There were
right,
huge cities. And
right.
again, the colonizer image is that there were a handful of people living in teepees and didn't understand corn or something. But yeah,
Couldn't be
again,
further
over the
from the
weekend,
truth.
it came out that some expert, I have a vested interest in this, because when my autistic aunt, hi Aunt Suze, uh, she's autistic as hell. We've had this conversation. I think
Hi,
she's
Aunt
open to it,
Suze.
but she is very interested in democratic memorabilia and genealogy. And one year for Christmas, she gave all of the siblings this metal print genealogy going all the way back to ancient England. And a lot of
Wow.
Throckmortons, my mother's people, were at Roanoke, the city that disappeared, leaving only the words Croatoan on a tree. And
Mm.
over the weekend, it came out that, surprising no one, there was a group of indigenous people called the Croatoans, and they just left a forwarding address. But the people at the time said, "Oh, I can't believe that they would possibly integrate with the people here, the savages. They must have just disappeared as if by magic or demons." But no,
Hmm.
no, seriously, all the evidence points to they just moved across the street and just lived in harmony and integrated into the Croatoan tribe, because anything else would be stupid. They just said, "Hey, you guys seem like you got a good way to go about doing
Yeah, you've
things.
got it figured out.
Could we possibly join you?" And apparently, the Croatoans were like, "You're not going to be all uppity and white, right?" And they're like, no. We've seen where that gets us. We're going. Please teach us. We don't know how to survive here. And like, all right. So apparently, they integrated and survived as immigrants.
Yep.
Fascinating that the Roanokeans were immigrants and survived because the people who were here took care of them and didn't kill them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so yeah, that's the. I can't even remember where I was with all that, but it's just
Well, we were
amazing.
just talking about how much um, colonist
Oh
and
yeah, yeah,
settler logic
yeah. Columbus
has
coming over and
ruled
raping
the
children
the
and cutting off children's hands and everything when they didn't bring them enough
yeah,
gold.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And when we talk about autistic genes and everything, I love to look at cultures and look at cultural signs of autism that are accepted, non accepted. For instance, like the whole lack of eye contact. In Japan, it's rude to make eye contact to a stranger anyway, so that's not an autistic issue there. In
Mhm.
Iran, in every other culture, making eye contact with strangers is a little weird. It's like us going up and, I don't know, licking somebody. If you lick somebody you don't know, that's going to come across as offensive. But
Generally speaking,
yeah, yeah, every once in a while you might find
and
somebody and there's
unless
your
it's like
soulmate.
a hookup situation where it's invitational
Yeah,
and
exactly. Yeah,
consensual.
consensual licking. But this
Consensual
is
licking is important.
yeah, yeah. So, but this is the thing. What if there's, a strain of sociopaths that decided to dominate the modern world. And again, I think that when we see people with a marked lack of empathy, decrying empathy, saying that empathy is bad for us, you gotta look and say, are you in fact a sociopath? Are you in fact a little off? Are these the people that we should really be giving all of our money and resources to do whatever they want with when they will bring about the end of our civilization?
Yeah.
Because like the Croatoans and the Roanokans, I'm sure they went by, I don't know, English or normies or something, but we're going to call them Roanokans.
Sure.
They, the only way to survive is together. And
Right.
this is the thing about our world. The only way we because okay, so in case you're listening to this after the atomic wars and robot uprising and all this other stuff, we just we may have avoided a war with the Dutch over Greenland because the tech bros want to create a utopia in Greenland where they can do whatever they want and mine rich rare earth minerals and all this other stuff. So we nearly got into trouble because dear leader decided to tell people, yeah, I can take whatever I want. I'm fine with this. And the
Yeah,
rest
I'm
of
not sure we're done with that one yet, but
yeah,
and I think isn't it Denmark, not the
Denmark, yes,
Dutch?
yes. Yeah.
Um,
I'm
Denmark,
still
Dutch is Holland.
yeah, I'm
Anyways,
I'm very very worried about and again, this is very white privilege talking. I'm very worried that I won't get any more Legos out of this because Denmark is the home of Legos and like, oh my god, yeah. So
yes.
Denmark, yeah, Trump was saying that, hey Denmark, I'm going to take this. Can I buy it? Can I just take it? You can't defend it. I need to defend it. And Denmark's like, nah, bro, we're good. We're good. But
Yeah.
we really do need and this is this thing about the rugged independence and the rugged masculinity and living all by yourself and this very false narrative that we've been sold that we need to live by ourselves when we absolutely need a community. Even earlier today, uh, when my son was here and snowed in because we got all that snow, we were going out to McDonald's and I cleared off the driveway, but the snowplow had made a ridge of snow at the end of my driveway, and we got stuck on that ridge of snow.
Hmm.
And I got out to shovel, and a neighbor stopped and said, "Hey, I'll tell you what, I'll shovel. You get in and hit reverse." And he helped shovel me out while I got the car out so we could shovel the rest of the ridge away. I
Nice.
absolutely needed help at that
Right.
time, and we all need help from time to time.
Right.
And
We are better together.
we are, and that's the thing about having people from different cultures who know
Hmm.
different things, who have different experiences. Because if you
Hmm.
have five people who all have the same experience, and one of them doesn't know how to solve a problem, chances are the others don't either.
Correct.
But if you have a lot of people of a lot of different backgrounds, chances are you can put your heads together and solve anything. And yeah, I use the example of like the Tasmanian devil, my all-time favorite animal. The Tasmanian devil is going extinct because on the tiny island of Tasmania, so much inbreeding has essentially made them all clones and they're dying of cancer. And if they just had some minor genetic variation to protect them from that cancer, they'd be fine. But they don't.
Right.
So in a couple of decades, the Tasmanian devil will be extinct because of homogeneity. Homogeneity?
Homogeneity, I think.
Homogeneity. Yeah, yeah. Or as humans call it, being basic. So
There you go.
it's it's that we absolutely need this, and we live in a world where again the colonizers tell us that rugged individualism is the way to go, but they also sell you an app for that because
Hmm.
a couple of months ago when my car broke down, I needed to get to the car place to have my car fixed. They gave me a loaner car. Oh, I had to rent a car because I didn't have anybody in my life here to drive me around. So I had to rent a car, which costs money. And then
Hmm.
the rental car broke down, and I had to pay an Uber to get me back because again, I don't know anybody around here who can pick me up and take me home. I don't have any support here, but they have an app for that for a price. And so I don't have anybody to bring me food, but there's an app for that where if you pay money, people will bring you food. And a community will take care of this for free. A community will take care of you. A community will look after you in your old age or in your grief or in all of this stuff. But we live in such an isolated, individualistic culture that everything is based on how much money you have. And if you don't have any
Right.
money, you're shit out of luck.
And
And
you're quote unquote not worth anything.
yes, yes, yes. And this is the thing about the value of human life. And it kills me because instead of being in a culture where I remember reading a while back that schizophrenia appears in all kinds of cultures, but only in Western cultures are the voices mean. In
Mm.
other cultures, like Namibian cultures, it's seen as wisdom from the ancients, from your ancestors. In
Hmm.
Alaska, there was a story about a guy who was hearing voices, and they just made him the town dog killer because there's apparently wild dogs that will attack you in Alaska. Who knew?
Hmm.
And they just said, "Yeah, go do that, and it's fine." But again, with this homogeneity, with this artificial standard of what is right and what is good and who should be protected and who has human rights, if you don't meet this weird mythical standard, you don't have the rights of humanity. And again, this comes back to the summary execution in the streets because these people roaming the streets with weapons believe that they have the power to decide who is worthy of living and who is not.
Right.
And it's horrifying. It's horrifying. As a human, as a self-professed decent person, I, I can't believe that this is the state of the world that we. I can believe it because I mean, honest to God. But this is the thing. It goes back to Popper's paradox, the of tolerance of intolerance, and
Hmm.
we talked on a few episodes prior before we took a break about previous issues with my ex in-laws across many families because again I have a marked inability to shut up and
I've never
when
noticed
somebody
that, Matt.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Ask Kate McNulty. It drives her nuts. Hi, Kate. Yeah. So,
We love you, Kate.
yeah. But yeah, it's it's one of those things where, somebody says, which people smell bad. No, we're not going to say that out loud. You're not going to
Mm-hmm.
say that at all. And of course, I get kicked out of the family because I'm not allowed to say
Mm-hmm.
that. But it's this thing that apparently it's worse to call out a racist than it is to actually be a racist. It's
Yeah.
white people have this really stupid thing. White neurotypical people have this really stupid thing where it's better to be nice and not make waves than it is to confront somebody who's doing bad. And
Mm-hmm.
I can't get behind that. I just can't do it.
And this
And
isn't to say that, white autistic people don't have
yeah,
issues, because
again,
like
we
white,
must say in general, because fuck you, Elon.
yeah, yeah, and we can get really locked into our ways of thinking,
Yeah,
um, and especially if we're not choosing to broaden our resources, which often we don't, because we're looking for that familiarity, we're looking for that comfort, and so we go to the familiar resources, and we may not realize that we're being fed bad information,
yeah,
right?
and
And
and this
so
is
I
yeah,
want to say, I want to address our listener who might be listening to us for the very first time, who might be sort of new to all of this awareness, maybe has been accessing information that hasn't been of such good quality. It's not too late to change your mind. It's
yeah,
not too late to take a look at all the data in front of you, not just the sources you prefer, but the sources you're not familiar with. It's not too late to change your mind and to find something that you can do, even if it's, whether it's donating $1 to somebody you believe in, or whether it's using the 5 Calls app, which is a great way, pre-scripted, so you don't even have to come up with the words, to call your Congress people and your senators and whatnot to let them know what's important to you. Um, there are things that you can do. There are things that we all can do. And this is the time to do it,
yeah,
right? This is the time to make our voices heard if we're able. And so if your nervous system is on too high of an overload, do what you need to do to heal your nervous system, right?
yeah,
If you have capacity to do something, like that, we've had Hunter on here a couple times to talk about knitting and various other things. Like there are a couple of knitting patterns out there now where you can like buy a knitting pattern that benefits people in Minnesota. There's a crochet pattern out there as well. I'll see what I can do about finding links for those so that people can find them easily. But like, there's little things like that. Buy Etsy things from people in Minnesota so that we can help support the folks who are on the front lines doing that work. If there's a general strike, consider how you might be able to participate in that. Hopefully something like that will happen soon.
yeah,
um, you know so there are a lot of different ways to engage. It doesn't all have to be talking on a podcast or going out to be on the front lines of protests. um,
and
Tune
this
into your nervous system, tune into your level of risk.
and this brings up a
Make
couple of things. Oh, sorry, go on.
Yeah, just make wise choices for yourself, but also make those wise choices about how you can make your voice or your um, wishes as a citizen heard, because
Yeah,
your voice matters.
and this is a big thing about like what is going back to the value of every person and that everyone has certain strengths and certain weaknesses. Not everybody is able to withstand the Arctic cold. Not everyone is able
That would
to
not be me, by the way.
yeah. There's a
Can't do
lot
it.
of ways to contribute using your abilities. One of the best examples in pop culture is uh, for about 3 decades, Batgirl was wheelchair bound because there was an encounter with the Joker. She was shot in the spine. It was originally a non-universe event that they made it canon, but she was unable to walk, so she redefined herself as Oracle, where she was a computer expert and fed Batman information. And if you are able to use the interwebs to
Yep,
archive, to connect people, to
that's right.
provide resources, to look up, and connect the data to the people who need it, by all means, please do that. If you're able
Mhm.
to give, moral support to the people who don't know that they're, out there alone, it's very, very good. Do what you can with what energy you have, but don't dedicate all of your energy, because then you will die and then you're not doing anyone any good.
At the end, yeah, dying is bad, generally
Yeah.
speaking.
And going back to the whole, and I respect people who are genuinely able to say, "Oh, I didn't realize that. I was wrong. My bad."
Yeah.
I Because when I was with one of my exes, I shall not say which one because it happened with both.
Mm.
I there were occasions where I would say, "No, no, this is the way," and they would say, "No, this happened." I was like, "No, no, you should do this," and they said, "No, this happened." I was like, "Oh, sorry about that. You're right." And one of them got extremely upset with me for not having a bigger reaction to that. And she was like, "Yeah, yeah, I'm right." I was like, "Yeah, you are." And he's like, "Yeah, I am absolutely right." And I was like, "Yeah." And like, "Why aren't you letting me have this?" I'm like, "Because you're right. You are factually correct. I was wrong. Your facts are correct." And
Hmm.
and there was I strongly recommend everybody watch the show Community, which is again written by Dan Harmon, who's autistic. Stars Danny Pudi as Abed, an autistic character, and according to research, Danny Pudi got an official autism diagnosis like 4 years after the show ended. So played by an autistic man, written by an autistic man, autistic character. There's one episode, I think it was episode 3, where they have a psych experiment with John Oliver as the psychologist,
Mm.
and they invite people in, and the theory of this experiment is that you will have this draw between logic and ego. You're asked to wait in a waiting room, and then they come in and said, "It'll just be another 5 minutes. It'll just be another 5 minutes. It'll just be," and the experiment never begins, but that's the experiment. And people will eventually become enraged that you have wasted their time and walk out. And one by one, all of the subjects leaves the room except for Abed, the autistic guy, and he just sits there and he waits for 27 hours completely still, waiting, and they keep saying, "It'll just be another 5 minutes," and they're running on fumes. And then finally, "Leave, go home." "Okay." And they're like, "Why aren't you upset?" "Because you're my friend and you asked me to stay." And the reason he didn't get upset is because he stays in logic, not ego. He didn't have that ego disruption. He didn't have that tie to emotional need to be like correct, need to have that validation, need. He's Abed, a quintessential autistic character who does not give a shit about being like anybody else except for himself. And he's a great role model that goes against Pinocchio syndrome, where a lot of autistic characters want to be a real boy, but Abed's cool. So, but this is the thing: if you are able to put facts over feelings, if you are able to objectively look at this data and say, "Oh shit, they've lied to me. Everything they said was wrong. I can factually go through and say this, and this, and it doesn't add up. I was absolutely wrong about this. I apologize for going against you and saying those horrible things at Thanksgiving dinner." I am inclined to accept that apology. Again, you'd have to, depending on how bad it was, you may have to go out and do some community service to help some people if you called them stinky on a number of occasions. But if you're willing to work to undo that damage, and you're willing to put the work in to absolve yourself from the incorrect way and do what you can to repair that damage. You can't undo
There
the
you go.
damage.
That's the word. Repair.
Yes. Do what you can. I'm down for that, but you have to do the work. Instead of just like, oh yeah, we're all buds now, right? It's like, no, there's a lot of suffering involved.
Mm-hmm.
There needs to be a lot of repairs. There needs to be a lot of changes. There needs to be a lot of people who say, I thought about this all wrong. I really, really need to work to make people feel safe, to make people feel valued, to make
Mm-hmm.
communities better. And I think that enough people did that, we would have a better place in the world. But we absolutely need people to come to that realization that this whole selfishness, lack of empathy, and myopic cultural dominance is insane and self-destructive.
Yeah. On that note, we should probably wrap for today.
Indeed, it's a big, heavy day, and
It is.
yeah, and we're going to end this episode. Again, we're recording on Mondays, so Trump hasn't declared war on Greenland yet. He hasn't signed in the mandatory Elon personality chip upgrades. The monkeys haven't turned against us. There's no robot uprising. Who knows what tomorrow will bring? So, but that said,
so in the meantime, take good care of yourself during whatever chaos this episode finds you.
Yeah. Do what you can to have some order to your life. Take care of each other, because in the end, that's all we have.
That's a fact.
Have a good one.
Bye, everyone.